Well, this morning we're talking with Scotty Smiley, who is going to be coming to the Mid-Columbia to the Tri-Cities for a very special event. And welcome aboard. It's Major Smiley, correct?
Yes, thanks, Sean. It's great to be here.
A very unique distinction. As I understand it, you are the first active duty military person in all of the U.S. Armed Forces who is considered legally blind. Is that correct?
Yes. So, I'm privileged to still be here, but most of all, just continue to still serve our country, and I think that's what's so amazing about it.
Well, first, give our listeners a little bit of background, something about yourself, and how you kind of arrived at where you are today.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Pasco, Washington, raised with my beautiful wife, Tiffany, and made a decision at the end of high school to attend the United States Military Academy in West Point, New York. And after 4 amazing years, finally commissioned and entered into the United States Army, was in charge of a 45-man striker platoon out of Fort Lewis, Washington, just on the western side of the mountain range here in Washington. And after 6 months, found myself in Iraq, fighting, trying to rebuild the country, helping protect and defend and secure. And then I find myself in front of a suicide car bomb on April 6th of 2005. And for me, the tragedies and warfare and the losses of lives that my unit had received were hard. But when you find yourself in front of a suspicious vehicle, which the rules of engagement say you just can't shoot because you're scared, it's a bit of a predicament. And so for me, I made a decision to cordon him off, surround him, yelled at him. I'm standing protected all the way up to my basically chest, a lot of metal, and I yelled at him to get out of his vehicle. And he looked over his left shoulder at me, raised his hands off the steering wheel, and shook his head no. I responded in the same manner, yelling at him. He responded in the same manner, and then let his foot off the brake. And that's when I raised my M4 rifle that I always carried with me up to my shoulder, and I shot 2 rounds in front of his vehicle. And then, boom, he disintegrated his car and sent shrapnel into both of my eyes, blinding me forever.
Wow.
It was tough. I don't necessarily remember that day in which I just described. A lot of it was just through conversations with other people. But waking up a little under 2 weeks later in Walter Reed Army Medical Center, blind the rest of your life, you really question what life's about. You really question what you were doing. It was just absolute and utter depression. The fear of how you were going to be able to live, how you're going to be able to provide, not just for myself, but for my still, amazing wife, I didn't know. And I think that's where it really became difficult for me. But my wife was there by my side, loving me. The Army was there. Commanders calling me almost every day, though I know he was busy over in Iraq. And for me, that's what was great about it, was just that support, constant support. And, it meant that I had to make the decision to forgive the man who blew himself up, which was definitely hard. While at the same time, I had to ask God to forgive me for denying him. And once I did, I was able to rebuild my life, rebuild my relationship with my wife, in which I think at the time I wasn't that nice to. And then eventually, had a decision to stay, want to know if I want to stay on active duty. And that's what I'm doing today, still serving my country up in Spokane, Washington, teaching, mentoring, training cadets to become second lieutenants in the Army, just like I had a little over 11 years ago.
Wow. That is definitely an inspirational story. Was there ever a certain moment? Was it a gradual process, or did you just have a moment of clarity where you realized, well, this is where the road has led me and this is what I was meant to do?
I think it was more the latter. This is the road that was meant for me. This is what I was, this is what I came to do. While at the same time, though it was instantaneous, it's not instantaneous for the body nor the mind to accept, because every day, even, over almost 10 years ago, I still have issues. I still have troubles. I have a major dependency in which I have to depend upon everyone around me. But for me, it was a learning process. It became, okay, well, how do I walk by myself? How do I use my computer? How do I, eat, shave? How do I live life again? And so for me, though it was an acceptance, it became a learning experience to understand what living life in this way, in this manner, meant to me.
So kind of the mind and the body and the spirit each had their own challenges.
Oh, yes, by all means, for sure.
And, of course, this is going to be very inspirational. Tell our listeners about the event that you're going to be a part of here in the Tri-Cities and some of the things that you're going to be sharing with people. And perhaps there will be people there that are facing, very different ways, but they're facing their own crossroads, or they have questions about what am I doing here? Tell us more about the event and what some of the things you're going to be sharing.
Yes. So Calvary Chapel, Tri-Cities is having an event this Friday. Phil Wickham, an amazing musician, artist, will be singing. And then I'm going to be sharing my life, my story, kind of like I did with you, but sharing not just the excitement and the fun that I had, but the struggles. And for me, being raised as a Christian, when life's crossroads come to you and you choose the wrong road, you know which road is the right road. But it's coming to that clarity and having that clarity be, not just told you, but coming to that realization that there is an answer and that we can live life happily here. And so for me, I know that there are going to be veterans in the audience and many men and women who are going through struggles and trials. And I hope that, not just Phil Wickham's amazing music, but words of inspiration and that God can speak to a lot of people and impact people in an amazing way this Friday night.
Absolutely. Because often I think we find that people have their struggles and sometimes they're not sure, sometimes they're wondering, but then they realize that what appears to be a struggle actually winds up being a blessing if they have that epiphany or they realize what they were really supposed to be doing.
Oh, by all means. And people have asked me before, would I change anything in my life, to do anything different? And for me, the honest answer is no. I am not offended. I am not ashamed by what decisions I made. And for me, the life in which I've lived, God's been able to use me in such an amazing way, been able to give back to our military, or this country in such an awesome way, in possible ways I never could have given back before. And so for me, it's coming to that epiphany and understanding. But it's because when I was faced with those crossroads, I knew where to turn and I was able to make those decisions. And that clarity came to me.
In all of the travels and the working with people and helping people in and out of the military, are there any particular moments that have really stood out to you where perhaps you've crossed paths with someone and you just knew that a major change had occurred in their life? Is there anything really special that stands out for you?
Oh, so often. And I think that's what keeps me inspired and motivated to continue to tell my story, not just corporations in which I've spoken to around the United States, but military, veterans, and active duty men and women, and especially family members. Because all too often, people are unwilling, it's not politically correct, or people are unwilling to share what struggles or trials that they've been in and been through. And for me, being able to write a book, Hope Unseen, being able to tell my story kind of gives people the freedom to say, hey, I can talk about these problems, I can talk about these situations, as Scotty has, and if it's helped him, it maybe can help me. And I think for me, that's what constantly, continually inspires me to share my story and to help people know that there is an answer.
Absolutely, because we all know, and there have been a lot of stories about it, but sometimes I think perhaps we're just scratching the surface. The trials and struggles and issues that not only our active duty military personnel but their families face as well, because that's not something that's easy to do, to go overseas and face these situations, life and death and other things, and then have to come back here and kind of pretend that everything is okay when in reality it's not, because we're all human beings.
No, exactly. And I wrote a kind of comical comment on Facebook, Hope Unseen, the other week, just I'm in charge of taking the garbage out of our house and the recycling, and I put the garbage in the garbage bin, the recycling bin. So then take it out on garbage day, and after the day's over, I say, hey, where hey, did the garbage get taken? And Tiffany's like, no, the garbage didn't, and the recycling did. I was like, what do you mean? And I had put the garbage in the recycling and the recycling in the garbage.
Oh.
And it's, but like you were saying, that's just life. That's how God, that's what God has allowed. But it's men and women, me just putting on Facebook, it's like, oops, hey, this is my life. This is what I have to Facebook. An awesome and amazing, neighbor just realized it, called me up and said, hey, where's your garbage? I'm taking it to my business and I'm going to drop it off. And it's men like that and women who understand that though the trials and situations, aren't sometimes, unlivable or that tragic, it's even those trials that people are able to lift a hand, and it's men like that, my neighbor, who that's what I call service. It's helping those around, helping the community, and it's that difference that really makes it worth continually sharing my story.
Absolutely. Well, we are definitely looking forward to this special event. And Major Smiley, we appreciate the time that you've taken out of your busy schedule to share with us. And we will encourage everyone in the Columbia Basin to come out and hear this message of inspiration and to remember that regardless of what they're going through, there's no such thing as an unimportant person or journey in life.
For sure. Well, thank you so much, John. It's been great being here, and I look forward to meeting everyone there this Friday.